What are you doing? Open this up.
What? You're gonna stay here for a while. I was locked in the basement by my husband's stepson. I kept trying to open the door of the basement, but it wouldn't budge. Originally, I had been in an accident and was using an electric wheelchair. So, I couldn't move around very well.
It's so cold.
Well, of course it is. The temperature right now is minus.
Why are you doing this to me?
Then, he began to laugh loudly. I've been irritated with you for a long time.
What?
Pretending to be a mother. Maybe you'll turn into a mummy if you stay down here long enough?
What are you thinking?
I'm going on a trip for 3 nights and 4 days. So, hang in there until I get back.
Please, let me out of here.
My cries of agony never reached him. All I could hear was his footsteps getting farther and farther away. I couldn't do anything but despair. 4 days after being locked up, the son returned from his trip.
What the heck is this?
Realizing something was seriously wrong, he rushed to the basement. Tentatively peering into the basement, he was met with a shocking sight. Ignoring the son who stood frozen, a grand act of revenge began. My name is Mia, and now I work in sales at a cosmetics company. I got married when I was 30. The only thing different from a normal marriage was that my husband, Owen, had a child. When we decided to get married, my parents were strongly against it. Getting married to someone with a child will definitely be tough. Dad's right.
Still, I want to get married.
I persuaded them for hours. At first, they wouldn't agree, but I didn't give up, and finally, they consented to the marriage. If you're that determined, we won't stop you.
Thank you.
The reason I chose Owen, who had a child, was because I felt really comfortable with him. Ever since we first met, we got along immediately because we shared hobbies like outdoor activities and liked the same things. We met at a bar I often visited. We happened to sit next to each other and ordered the same drink, which started our casual conversations. After running into each other several times, we exchanged contact information. Soon after, Owen contacted me, and we went out for a meal.
Well, and the child?
Actually, he's my son.
Your son?
His name is Jack, and he's turning 10 this year.
I see.
I was at a loss for words, not knowing what to say. Sensing this, Owen said something surprising. I brought my son today for a reason.
What's the reason?
I want to date you with the intention of getting married. I had thought about dating him, but I never imagined he was thinking about marriage. But when he said it with such seriousness, I gradually became happy, and eventually, we started dating. After that, we often went out together as a trio. It seems like Jack has really warmed up to you. I hope so. Then let's ask the person himself. Jack, can you come here for a second? What is it, Dad? Jack, would you be happy if Mia became your mom? He seemed to think for a bit, then quickly broke into a smile. I'd be really happy. See? That's what he says. Oh, okay. I felt incredibly happy and somewhat embarrassed. At that time, we had met about 6 months ago. A week later, I received a formal proposal and we got married. After the wedding, the 3 of us decided to rent a house. Looking up at the house, I imagined our happy family life ahead. But that life gradually started to go in a strange direction. Our relationship with the son had been good until then, but suddenly he became cold towards me. I'm sorry, but it looks like I'll have more business trips coming up. Business trips? For long? No, I don't think it's like that, but I might be away from home more often. I had a good relationship with Jack even before we got married, but naturally, I felt anxious about being alone with him right after getting married. Then, one morning, when I was spending more time alone with Jack, it happened. What's wrong? Aren't you eating? I don't want to. After that, he wouldn't even respond when I spoke to him. Suddenly faced with this situation, I wondered if I had done something wrong and decided to talk to my husband when he returned from a business trip. Isn't this overthinking?
Suddenly like this. If I did something, I want to apologize.
But you don't remember doing anything, right?
That's true, but
worrying too much might make things weirder.
Okay.
That's when I realized something. Around this time, Jack was taking piano lessons, at his father's suggestion. It turns out Owen had also learned piano when he was in elementary school. Owen had told me that moving your hands is good for the brain.
See you next week, Emma.
Yes, see you then.
Bye.
Jack always smiled around his piano teacher. Even watching his recent behavior, he seemed happiest with her. When Owen was around, Jack would talk casually with me, but when Owen went on a business trip, Jack stopped talking to me. He would only come out of his room for meals and to take a shower. Even if I tried talking to him, he'd act as if he couldn't hear me and just walk past. I tried talking to my husband again, but there was no sign of improvement in our relationship. This life continued, and before I knew it, Jack had become a college student.
What should I do now? Are you talking about Jack? Yeah. I mean, before I knew it, we've come this far. Well, Jack's an adult now. He's not a child anymore. I know, but...
My husband's point was that I shouldn't worry too much. Certainly, he would eventually leave home and become independent, but I still wanted to improve our relationship. In the end, my conversation with my husband was inconclusive. Unable to understand why he disliked me, I decided to ask Jack directly.
Is there something bothering you?
Huh?
What's this all of a sudden? I just thought, since we haven't been talking much lately, maybe something happened.
Jack sighed heavily and replied in an annoyed tone. Can you just not talk to me?
I have nothing to say to you. You don't have to say that.
Then, Jack said something shocking.
I've disliked you since the first time I met you. What? I don't like the way you look down on people.
I was so taken aback by his harsh words, I couldn't respond. Then, my husband, noticing the commotion, came over.
What's going on here?
Nothing, really.
That can't be true. What did you say to Mia?
I just said I disliked her. What's wrong with that?
You said that. Apologize to Mia.
My husband spoke sternly, trying to discipline Jack. However, Jack had started to talk back even to my husband.
Why should I?
Dad, are you being deceived by this woman?
What are you saying? Don't be ridiculous.
Jack didn't back down and resisted.
If that's how it is, I'll leave.
That's what you want, right?
Hey, where are you going? Wait.
He walked out of the house. And with that, Jack's rebellious behavior only intensified.
Aren't you going to chase after him? It's okay. Let's just leave him be for now. He'll probably come back eventually.
No matter how harshly he spoke to me, Jack was still my important son. I wanted to chase after him, but I chose to wait, believing in my husband's words that Jack would return soon. However, Jack didn't come back even on the following night. Restless, I went outside and thought, I doubt he's anywhere near home. Regretting my impulsive decision to leave without a destination, I suddenly saw Jack emerging from a house in front of me. I quickly hid behind a lamppost. What is he doing here? I stayed hidden until Jack disappeared into the darkness. When I checked the house he had come out of, I realized it was the piano school he had attended years ago. Although it was already night, I had unknowingly ended up on a familiar street. How many years had it been since I last came here? I couldn't understand why Jack was coming out of there.
Where have you been?
I hurried back home and questioned Jack. Huh? Why do I have to tell you? I decided to try a different approach.
I thought I saw you near the piano school just now.
Piano? His voice seemed to waver for a moment.
What were you doing?
There's no way I was there.
Why would I go to Emma's place?
His response confirmed my suspicion. I hadn't been mistaken. Jack stopped taking piano lessons when he graduated elementary school. Although some time had passed since he quit, the fact that he referred to her name made it clear that they hadn't just met yesterday or today.
I see.
Annoyed, he muttered under his breath.
Can't you just shut up?
His words were tough to bear, having already strained me mentally. Then, Owen came home at just the right time. Jack, realizing his father was home, returned to his room. Owen walked into the living room, looking somewhat exasperated.
Did he say something to you again? Huh? You can tell? I can tell by looking at your face. So, what happened?
I told Owen about what Jack had just said to me. Then, he gently placed his hand on my shoulder and spoke kindly. I'm really sorry.
Why are you apologizing?
It's partly my fault for not being able to talk to him properly today. I've been away from home a lot on business trips. But still, it hurts to be spoken to like that. As I muttered this softly, my husband was about to head to Jack's room.
Wait a minute.
I grabbed my husband's arm to stop him.
Why are you stopping me? I have to talk to him.
Just listen to me. I stopped him because I remembered something important. It was about Jack coming out of the piano school.
I thought I might have been mistaken, so I tried asking him, and he referred to her name. Piano? Wasn't that back in elementary school? Yeah. I don't know when it started, but they seem to have a good relationship. But why would he? I can't figure out the reason. That's why I think we should just watch the situation for a bit. Yeah, you might be right.
I really wanted to know the reason. Maybe that was the cause of his harsh attitude towards me. I wished to resolve the problem and improve our relationship with Jack.
I really want to sort this out. Yeah, I'll help too. Let's work on this together. Okay.
Though I told my husband this, I wondered if there was more to it, so I decided to investigate Emma's background. As for Jack, we decided to just watch him for now. But when things are bad, they can really go downhill. On my way home from work, I met with misfortune. I was involved in a traffic accident. I got hit by a car running a red light while crossing the street.
Are you okay?
I'm sorry. I didn't expect this to happen.
What are you saying? It's a relief you're safe.
But my legs. I had suffered a severe back injury, resulting in spinal cord damage, and I couldn't move my legs at all.
Does that mean I can't walk anymore?
I nodded silently. Eventually, I had to be hospitalized for about half a year. I'm sorry, you have work and now this.
It's not your fault, Mia. But you have a business trip tomorrow, right? I'll be fine, you should go and get ready. That's true, but I'll be fine, really. Okay.
My husband left the hospital room. I bit my lip to stop myself from crying, desperately holding back tears. It was the next day when my son, Jack, visited the hospital. How are you feeling? My legs don't move, but I'm otherwise okay. Then Jack showed a nasty smile. Can't walk, huh?
Now you're useless. You don't have to say that. Maybe Dad will even bring up divorce.
I wouldn't mind, though. His verbal abuse continued. I didn't respond, just taking his words like a punching bag. Satisfied, Jack started to leave the room. And just before exiting, he turned back and said, "Well, do your best. I'm not up for caregiving." All I could do was watch his back. Alone in my room, I lay down and wept silently. I had never felt such pain in my life. Then, my husband, Owen, came in.
I have something important to talk about. Something important?
I braced myself. Thinking of Jack's words, I feared it might be about divorce. But his words were surprisingly different.
I've been thinking about buying a house. Our current home isn't wheelchair accessible, and it must be hard for you. That might be true, but to do all that for me. It's okay.
Of course, there was something on my mind. It was about Jack.
But what does Jack think? I did talk to him about it, but he seemed uninterested. We haven't been having proper conversations lately. That's how it was.
During my hospital stay, my husband Owen had been looking for a new house. It was a fact that our old home had become inconvenient since I started using a wheelchair. Building a new house from scratch wasn't feasible due to time constraints. 2 weeks later, when Owen visited me at the hospital, he had already purchased a house.
We've already bought the house. Already? There was this great model home. I visited and decided on it right away. For me. It's okay. I just want you to live comfortably. Thank you so much.
I felt a deep gratitude welling up inside me. After being discharged, I was amazed when we arrived at our new home. It was more impressive than I had imagined. Pretty good house, huh?
Yes, it's amazing.
And this house even has a basement.
A basement?
There was more to be surprised about. That's right, I almost forgot, Owen said as he went to the back of the room and returned.
Could it be? Yes, it's an electric wheelchair. All this for me. With this, you can move around more freely, right? I can't thank you enough. This was something I decided to do on my own.
I hoped this would reduce some of the burden on Owen. Although I couldn't suddenly do everything, I was determined to try and even go outside. From that day on, I started to take care of myself. But Jack didn't seem to like seeing me active and independent. Move. You're really in the way. Then he kicked my wheelchair.
That's dangerous.
You're useless even being here.
I'm just trying to reduce the burden.
That doesn't change anything.
You don't have to be so harsh.
Your very existence is a burden. What difference does it make? Feeling overwhelmed, I tried to return to my room, but he stood in my way. Where do you think you're going?
I'm just trying to go back to my room. That's okay, right?
We're not done talking yet.
I don't have anything more to say.
Until now, I had hoped for some improvement in our relationship, but I started to think that maybe this was the end of the line. I had reached my limit of patience.
Running away, huh? If that's what you want to think, that's fine.
Why did Dad even marry someone like you? Then, Jack kicked my wheelchair again and went back to his room upstairs. After that, he stopped talking to me for a while. I felt a bit relieved by this silence.
Sorry, but I have another business trip scheduled.
All right.
Sorry to leave at a time like this. We haven't even resolved things with Jack yet.
It's okay.
I'll call you if anything happens.
With that, Owen left for his trip, and I was once again left to live alone with Jack. As soon as my husband Owen left for his business trip, my son Jack started spending more time out of the house. This left me anxious about when he would return next. That night, I went to bed without Jack returning. The next morning, I woke up to noises from upstairs. It seemed Jack had come back while I was asleep. But there was no sign of him coming out of his room. Today's the day to start working, I was determined. I thought I would have to quit my job after becoming wheelchair-bound, but my previous work was recognized and I was told I could continue remotely. I turned on my computer and started working. Then realized something. I realized the mouse was missing. I can't find the mouse. I remembered that computer peripherals were stored in the basement storage. Since Jack would likely ignore me if I asked for help, I decided to get it myself. It's definitely easier with an electric wheelchair, though it was a hassle. I didn't want to delay and headed straight to the basement. The basement was accessed through a door behind the staircase. Slowly descending the slope, I reached out for a box at the back. I placed the box on my lap and was about to head back up when I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. I thought Jack had finally woken up, but he came down the slope. What are you doing here?
Just looking for something.
For a moment, I was a little happy, thinking maybe he came to help. Fine, I'll help you then, Jack said as he closed the door. I was so shocked that I froze for a moment. But soon, I realized this was a bad situation. Not only was I locked in, but it was also extremely cold. Checking the thermometer on the wall, it was a shocking -degrees.
What are you doing? Open the door.
Huh? You can stay here for a while. I tried multiple times to open the basement door, but it wouldn't budge. Originally, I had been in an accident and was using an electric wheelchair. So, I couldn't move around well.
It's so cold.
Well, of course it is. It's -degrees right now.
Why are you doing this to me?
Then Jack began to laugh loudly.
I've been irritated with you for a long time. What?
Pretending to be a mother. Maybe you'll turn into a mummy if you stay down here long enough?
What are you thinking?
I'm going on a trip for 3 nights and 4 days. So, hang in there until I get back.
Please, let me out of here.
Okay. After a while, Jack returned with something in his hands. The door cracked open slightly, and he threw in 2 bags of snacks and a bottle of water.
This is all you're giving me to survive on?
That should be enough. Well, this is goodbye then.
Just open the door.
My cries of despair didn't reach Jack. All I could hear was his footsteps getting farther and farther away. I couldn't do anything but despair. It seemed he wasn't seriously trying to take my life. I had to figure out how to survive the next 4 days. First, I need to do something about this cold. I desperately searched for anything I could use. As I rummaged through cardboard boxes, I found an old blanket. With nothing else available, I covered myself with it to endure the cold. I had no way to call for help. 4 days passed, and Jack returned from his trip. And now, a grand act of revenge was about to begin. I secretly watched Jack's movements. Let's see what he's going to do now. Then, my son Jack headed towards the basement. Tentatively opening the door, he exclaimed.
What the heck is this?
An odd smell wafted from the basement, noticeable even from a distance. He hurried inside, panicking.
No way, is she dead? If I knew it would come to this, I shouldn't have listened to that person.
In the back of the basement, something wrapped in a blanket was lying there. Jack probably thought it was me. However, it was a trap set by me and someone else. What are you doing there? Jack immediately turned towards me.
Why are you here?
Well, why do you think so?
Don't mess with me.
That's my line. You do such things without being prepared.
What? Mocking me?
It was when Jack was about to come towards me.
I never thought you would go this far. Why is Dad here? Weren't you supposed to be on a business trip? I couldn't get in touch, so I thought something was off and came back. Then I found you had locked yourself in the basement.
That's right. I was rescued by my husband Owen. I had been released from the basement just yesterday. To deceive Jack, my husband and I put garbage in a bag to make it look like I had decomposed. Furthermore, we used a blanket to make it look like me. It worked perfectly.
So, who is that person you're talking about? Huh? Did I say that?
Don't pretend you don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Then I realized who he might be referring to. Could it be Emma? Jack stepped back, clearly hitting the mark.
Right, you mentioned seeing her when you came out of the piano class before.
Yes.
They must have been sneaking around behind our backs. Then let's check it out.
Huh?
You know her contact information, right?
Let's invite her here.
Wait a minute.
No, let's call her. Jack contacted Emma. After a while, the intercom rang. Jack went to greet her, and together they headed to the basement.
Now, let's have an explanation.
Given the awkward situation, it was natural that she couldn't see my eyes.
I just wanted Dad to be happy. What's so good about a woman like her? You really don't understand anything.
What do you mean?
I chose Mia because she accepted me for who I am. If that's the case, Emma is no different.
Then why go through all this trouble?
Do you think I would fall for such a woman?
I thought it best to let the person in question explain.
Wait. Since she's here, let's ask Emma.
Jack seemed taken aback, not expecting the focus to turn on her. All eyes were now on one person.
I used Jack. I just said to scare her a bit, not to lock her in a basement.
I knew some things about Emma, as Jack had attended her piano classes before meeting me. Apparently, she had been inviting him for meals multiple times even after refusing. After marrying me, Jack didn't like me taking him to piano classes. That's why, to avoid any unnecessary issues and also as a means of supervision, I decided to take over the task of dropping off and picking up Jack from his activities.
Indeed, I used Jack. But I never intended to be with him.
Huh?
I just couldn't bear seeing the man I liked being happy. So, you saying you wanted to be with Dad was?
I'm sorry. That was a lie. I then recalled something I had previously investigated. There's no way you two could be together.
What do you mean?
Because, Emma, you're already married.
That's a lie.
That's right, isn't it? Emma nodded silently. It wasn't surprising that Jack hadn't noticed. Emma's husband, like mine, was also working away from home.
So, what was all this for?
Seeing Jack's dejected look, I realized something else. I whispered it to my husband Owen.
Oh, that makes sense. What are you talking about?
You were in love with Emma, weren't you?
What?
Jack looked down, but then quickly raised his head.
No, that can't be. But think about it, so many things don't add up. You said it was for Dad, but there were other ways. Emma, you are aware of Jack's feelings, right?
Yes.
It's truly unfortunate. You were just used as a tool for revenge. No way! I've been doing all this for Emma.
Jack finally seemed to lose his strength and slumped to the floor. My husband Owen gently placed his hand on Jack's shoulder. His expression seemed to soften a bit. Maybe he was hoping for some sympathy. We, as his parents, had decided to be strict with him for his own reformation.
It's unfortunate, but you're an adult now. Even if you were deceived, it doesn't excuse your actions. So, leave this house right now. Wait! Isn't that too harsh?
Harsh?
Think about what you've done. This woman.
I had no intention of holding back either. What you did to me could be considered imprisonment. There was even a risk to my life. That's why you panicked, right? Exactly what Mia said. How can we live with someone so dangerous? Jack might have thought it was a trivial matter, but what he did was a serious crime. Certainly a grave offense. Enough reason to kick him out of the house. Then let's give him a choice. Either we call the police right now, or he leaves this house. That's a good idea. So, what will it be? We decided to give him a choice, but in reality, there was never any choice for Jack. All right, I'll leave. Okay. But I'll still pay for your tuition until you graduate. You're on your own for everything else. And don't ever come back to this house. Isn't that too harsh? Do you want to be reported? He fell silent and looked down after hearing that. Emma, what should I do now? He turned to Emma for help. However, instead of the quiet demeanor from before, anger towards Jack was evident. You really did something unnecessary. Who told you to go this far? I didn't know you were this foolish. I just did what you told me. As I told you? I didn't tell you to commit a crime. What's that supposed to mean? You deceived me first. Honestly, their argument seemed irrelevant to me. If you want to argue, do it outside. It's just a nuisance. Yes. If you both continue to make a scene, I'll really call the police. My voice made the two of them calm down a bit, and they left the house, still arguing. I had second thoughts about kicking out my son. But what he did to me was a crime. Jack needs to understand the severity of his actions and learn to live a proper life. Did I do the right thing? Yes. You don't need to worry, Mia. But still. It's okay. If we coddle him, he'll never truly become an adult. You're right. After leaving the house, Jack rented an apartment and started living alone. As my husband Owen had said, we were paying for his tuition, but Jack was earning his own living expenses. Apparently, one job wasn't enough, and he seemed to be juggling several part-time jobs. There was a time when Jack called me once. I'm sorry for everything that's happened. Could you lend me some money, just a little? Huh? Why should I do that? You left this house on your own. So, that's how it is, huh? What are you talking about? You care about Dad, not me, right? If you're going to say that, then don't contact me again. Like I'd ever contact you again. Jack said and hung up the phone. Moreover, Jack is still 20s. This should be the most enjoyable time of his life. Not being able to create memories of his youth is a punishment he must accept for what he's done. Emma, after all that happened, moved away quietly. Now, I have no way of knowing where she is or what she's doing. Finally, things have settled down. Yes. Looking forward to our future together. And thus, our life as a couple began anew. I'm sure happiness will continue in the days to come.